Hey everyone. I wanted to share my story. I've been inspired this whole week, this past weekend, to share my story, and I came across a quote. I forgot the name of the author, but I remember the quote, and it said, "When you share your testimony, it sets someone else free from their prison." And so I pray that as I share my story tonight, that I will indeed help someone be set free from the things that they're going through or what they have been going through or just haven't really dealt with. And I've realized after being asked, oh, well, what made you decide to, start your purity blog, or what made you decide to wait until you're married and remain celibate? And I realized that I hadn't shared my story. I shared a little bit of it when I did my video with Edward, but that was just like a smidget of my decision of becoming celibate. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not ashamed. I'm going to share it. It's my story. It's my testimony. It's the test that I went through to bring me to where I am now in life. And so I give God all the glory. And I hope that you are touched and inspired. And please let me know at the end of it if you were blessed and if you wanted to connect, and I can pray with you and I can be your accountability partner, because that is what I am here for. So I guess I would say my story starts with when I was younger, with daddy issues. My father wasn't really a part of my life. I was born out of an affair. My mother, when she found out she was pregnant with me, she didn't know my father was married until she told him she was pregnant. And so that was a challenge in itself, with him being around and not knowing how to bring me into his already established family. I didn't really establish a relationship with him. So feeling rejected and unloved and unwanted, that's where things kind of stemmed from, later going into my adolescent years and teenager years and things like that. So with my dad not being there, my dad not giving me the assurance that I'm beautiful, that I'm special, and all those great things that a father is supposed to, instill into his daughter, I didn't get. And I always felt like he didn't love me and I didn't feel wanted. And although he came here and there sometimes, I didn't have that relationship with him. I never called him dad. I always called him by his name, because I felt that was a way for me to get back at him for him not being the dad that I really wanted him to be. And as I got older, there were times where I wanted him to come to school functions. I wanted him to, just for me to call and to talk to him. And there were a few school functions that he came to, but it still wasn't like a real relationship with him. And so as I started, getting older, and when I turned 14, I think I was in 8th grade, about to go into my 9th grade year, and everyone was talking about sex and what they like and this, that, and the third. And some of my friends were like, well, I went to so and so's house and we did so and so, and they're like, Monica, what you doing? And I'm like, what? I don't do that. I'm a virgin. They're like, you're a virgin. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a virgin. I'm like, what's wrong with that? And at the time, no one had really spoken to me about it. And it wasn't like on a hush hush. It just wasn't spoken of. Even in church, it wasn't spoken of. My mom, of course, my mom was like, don't have sex. Wait till you're married. Yeah, okay, whatever. So for 14 years, that's what I was like, oh, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. But because I started hanging around people who were having sex, and it just seemed like the most coolest thing to do, and it was like, what am I missing out on? And I met this guy. He was 17, I was 14, and I just started hanging around the wrong people, and their intentions weren't good, I would say. But to me, they're like, oh, they're my friends, they're cool, like they think I'm cool, so I'm gonna hang out with them. And I started listening to this song. It was a song by Ja Rule and Charlie Baltimore, and there was a verse in there, and she was like, I can show you better than I can tell you. Well, I had a conversation with this young man, and he was like, when am I going to see you? And I said, oh, well, I can come see you today, but I don't want to do nothing. And he was like, oh, but you're my pretty young thing, you're so special to me, and da-da-da-da. And I was like, well, maybe I can, do so-and-so, so-and-so. And I'm talking like big girl talk, but I don't know nothing, And he was like, oh, so what you talking about? That song I just said had planted a seed in my head, and I was like, well, I can show you. better than I can tell you. And that just opened up the door. And I lost my virginity at 14. 2 weeks later, he breaks up with me and he dates another person from, he dates another person. And we weren't like best friends, but we were close enough to where I was like, why would you do something like that? And I was like, but I thought he wanted me. I'm his pretty young thing. Like, he's like, for the past 2 weeks, it's just been me and him, me and him, me and him. That wasn't the case. And so from there, feeling heartbroken and had given something so special away, I felt so used. And I was like, oh my God, I can't get that back. I can't get that back. I was supposed to wait and give that to my husband, and I can't get that back. And the person that I gave it to just mistreated it, just threw it away as if it was a napkin that they used to blow their nose, and now they were done with it. They used it for what it was that they wanted at the time, and they threw it away. And from there, I was like, okay, so what do I need to keep doing this so I can get someone, so I can keep someone. So from the age of 14, throughout high school, I was very promiscuous. There were sometimes I would meet a guy at a mall and we would meet that same day and he would be at my house that same night or the next day. And that was my lifestyle. That was my lifestyle. And, you know, my friends are like, oh, well, you know, Monica, she's fast, she's this, and da-da-da-da-da-da. You need to slow down for you're going to be the first one to get pregnant. And, well, thankfully, thank the Lord, I never got pregnant. Hallelujah. But still, like, that was my mindset because my dad wasn't there. I had my godfather, I had my older cousins, and I had people who were like brothers to me, but nothing could take the place of my father. I needed my father to tell me that I was beautiful, that I was important, that I was special, and he needed to set the standard for what I should be looking for in a man when it came time for a man to pursue me. And so going through high school, I think it was like my junior year, I was just like so done with boys. I didn't experiment with females. I had one encounter with a female. We just made out and touched each other and stuff like that, but it wasn't like a full-blown thing where, you know, I was like, I'm gonna go and be a lesbian. It wasn't anything like that. But I was so lost and I was so broken that anyone that gave me attention, I was just willing to go and do. And I literally thought that I had to give myself away physically to a guy in order to keep him. Like, there's nothing more valuable to me than what's in between my legs or what I can do to them physically. That was my mindset. It didn't matter of how pretty I was or how good of a person that I was or anything like that. It was like, well, I know what I need to do to keep you, so I'm going to do it. And I'm going to learn how to do it well so that I don't have to go through another boyfriend, another heartache, another rejection. But that's the cycle that I was in. That was the cycle. And it was my junior year of high school. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait. And it was like a year and a half. And when you wait and you say you're going to wait, the devil knows what to bring. He knows what you like, okay? He studies us very well. And this tall, light-skinned, southern young man transferred to our school the last year of high school. And I was like, ooh, hello, how you doing? But to me, I was like, he's not going to talk to me. He's going to go talk to so-and-so because she has the it body and she does this and da-da-da-da, and I'm just Monica. And funny enough, he came up to me and wanted to start talking to me. He took my phone, he put his number in my phone, and we were just talking every night and things like that. And then one day he was like, I'm going to walk you home. And I was texting my friend. I was like, oh, he wants to walk me home. What should I do? She's like, you better not walk him home. You know what's going to happen. He's only after one thing because he heard that you were holding out and da-da-da. I was like, that's not true. It was true. So what did, I wouldn't say stupid Monica, but foolish Monica, we should say, did. I allowed the boy to walk me home. So I'm trying to be all nice and hospitable. And I was like, you want something to drink? And you know, this is the living room, da-da-da. And he was like, well, I want to see your room. And I was like, okay, well, my room's right there. So you want to go sit down? Let's watch some TV. He was like, no, like, show me a room, da-da-da. Let me see some pictures and all that stuff. And y'all know what happened. One thing led to another, and I was like, okay, well, maybe he really does like me. So the next morning, I'm walking in the hallway to go to my locker, and I was about to go up to him to say hi, and all I got was this. And he turned his back and kept walking. My stomach fell to the ground because I was like, wow, I felt like I was 14 again. Like, wow, like I literally waited and I decided to share this with you, and this is how you treat me. And it's like, wow, I'm back in the same position again, where I gave something of myself to someone that did not deserve it, that really only wanted that one thing for me, and that was not wanting to get to know me for me, or to want to be with me for me and my personality, or the things, my great characteristics and things like that. It was just because of that one thing. And I felt very sad, and I was very hurt. And I heard of this conference called True Love Waits, and our church took us there. And I was like on the floor, like crying, like, God, I'll never do it again. I'll never do it again, Lord. Please forgive me. That probably lasted maybe like a few months or something like that. And I ended up getting back with an ex-boyfriend. And so when I graduated high school, I was just trying to find myself, and I saw everyone was getting married, and I was never a casual dater, so I wasn't like talking to 2, 3 guys at one time and stuff like that. And oh, this didn't work, so let me go over here. It was like I always longed for a long-term relationship. I always wanted that, and so when I was like 20, about to turn 21, yeah, and when I turned 21, I moved out of my house, the house I grew with my mom. And it was like, you know what? Like, I feel like I'm ready. At 21, I want to be a wife. Because growing up, that's all I knew. That's all I was taught. You grow up, you graduate from high school, you go to college, you get you a good job, you get married, you have babies, you live happily ever after. Sorry. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything about kingdom work and kingdom building and entrepreneurship. And I mean, I knew people who started their own business, but that's not what I was taught. That's not what I was looking forward to. So my mindset was, my highest position in life is to become a wife. Like, if I become a wife, I'm good. Everything else, I'm good. Let me get a good job. Let me get a good man. Give him some babies. We'll be fine. We go to church every Sunday, serve in that community. That's going to be Monica's life. So at 21, I was like, okay, well, I'm on my own, making some good money. Let's see what's out there. And I started putting myself out there, and I tried online dating. And the summer of 2009, I met my ex-husband. And by that time, I still hadn't dealt with some of the issues with my dad. And so by that time at 21, I had forgiven him at 19. So by then, I was calling him dad, I was calling him pops, we were talking every once in a while, things like that. God was still dealing in our relationship. He was still dealing with my dad, and he had to get my dad to a place where my dad had to program his mind. I need to call my daughter. I need to check in on my daughter. I need to let my daughter know that I love her, that I care about her, that I'm thinking about her, to encourage her. Same thing with me. I had to call my dad. I had to tell him that I love him, that I care about him, that I'm thinking about him, and just to listen to him and to see how his day is going, because it goes both ways. And so I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful for restoration. I believe in restoration. But by the time I met my ex-husband, it was like I was looking for him to be like the icing on the cake for me, so to speak, when it came to the things that I dealt with my dad. So I was looking for my husband to make me feel beautiful, to make me feel like, I'm the prettiest woman in the whole entire world, that I'm the only person that he cares about. And it was like I wanted to be selfish with him. I didn't want him to be with anyone else. I didn't want him to like spend too much time with anyone else. And I wanted to know like I was the most important thing. Now, in some aspects, there's some truths to that, in how a husband should express his affection and his love and appreciation to his wife. I believe in that wholeheartedly. But at the same time, it's like I expected him to do things that my dad didn't. And I never told him that. I just expected him to. So every time when my ex-husband didn't communicate something to me, or if he didn't speak to me in the right way that I was expecting him to speak to me in, It was like, wait a second, this reminds me of my dad. And I would look at him like, you're not my dad. Like, who are you talking to? And it was hard for me to submit to him because I was looking for him to be more gentle and more loving. And so when we got married after only knowing each other for 5 months. We met online. We met in July. I moved in September. We got engaged in November. We got married in January. Now, I was not raised to shack up. My mama never taught me that. Now, if that is your situation, that's between you, that person, and God. I can't condone or dim anything. So everyone's situation is different, and I get it. Excuse me. However, it put us in a bad position for our marriage because although we were already having sex before we got married, when we started living together, we started acting as husband and wife and paying bills and getting in the roles of where the man does this and the woman does this, and getting comfortable with each other and not having that separate space, and coming together in a new place together and experiencing that and developing your own routine and your own lives together. And so that did more damage to good. And so when we got married, I was happy at the time because I was like, yay, I'm married. Somebody actually loves me. Somebody actually thinks I'm beautiful and wants to spend the rest of their life with me. I was like, yes, I made it. Monica made it. Yeah. Well, in the beginning, it was fine. You know, we were happy. We were young. I got married at 22. And again, we had only known each other for 5 months, so we had our ups and downs with things. And he had his ways, or theories, I should say. And it was a lot of things that I could not do. And it was things that I had to get used to. And I'm very transparent, so I'll share some of them. He didn't believe in celebrating Christmas. He didn't believe that Jesus Christ was born on the 25th. Everyone has their own thoughts about it. So we didn't celebrate Christmas. I couldn't say Merry Christmas. He didn't believe in the name Jehovah, so I couldn't say Jehovah. I couldn't watch scary movies. I couldn't watch rated R movies. I couldn't wear certain things if he felt like my top part of my body was going to be too revealing, or just like I couldn't wear makeup. I could, like, just things like that. And one of the big things was I couldn't take medicine because he didn't believe in medicine. And so if you kind of pick up on where I'm going, I was in bondage, and I was just in this box, and only this inside that box is where Monica could live and breathe and do. And in order to step out of that box, I had to ask him for permission to do certain things, or to go certain places. And it in a sense became like a parent and child situation. And at the beginning of the marriage, I wasn't working, and so he was working. And so I guess that did something to him and his ego. And it was like, you know, I'm man, and this is what man says. And I'm looking at him like, I'm your wife. I got your name, and we share this house together. I cook and clean, and yeah, we're gonna have to compromise. And things just started changing. And then when I started working, God started to elevate me and my thinking and my maturity and things like that. And it created a shift. And there was a time where a situation happened between his mother and the pastor's wife, and he said, I'm not going to church anymore. I don't want to go to church anymore. And I thought he was crazy. I'm like, well, you're a licensed minister. What do you mean you're not going to go to church? And he said, well, I'm not going to church, and I don't want you to go to church. And I was like, wait a second. Pause. You can't come between me and my Jesus. Okay? He was like, I don't want you to go to church. And I was like, but I have to go to church. Don't forsake the assembly of others. And I was like, that's just what we're supposed to do. And I like our church. And that's a situation between those two people. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me. It's unfortunate that it happened, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me. And so sometime later, I think it was maybe like a month later, there was a lot of conflict between us. And I would come home on Sundays and be like, hey, babe, guess what? So the pastor talked about da 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 da. And I'm thinking that it's going to help inspire him to get back in church. And he'd be like, I don't want to hear that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was like, well, I'm going to be a good wife, and I don't want my house to be divided, and I'm going to make him happy. One of the biggest mistakes of my life, because I stopped going to church for a year and a half. Now, I called us what I made a joke of bedside Baptists. I would get up on Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock and listen to T.D. Jakes and Joyce Meyer and Joel Osteen and stuff like that. Put on some worship music. I'd be like, okay, Lord, I went to church today. Now I can go on. But it wasn't the same. I wasn't connecting. I wasn't sharpening with other people. I wasn't serving. My gifts weren't being utilized, or they weren't being flourished or developed. And I started to develop resentment towards him, and that created more issues. And during that year and a half, my grandmother passed away. And I really was looking forward to my ex-husband being there for me and my family, and he decided to choose an engagement over coming with spending time with the family, and that was very devastating to me, and that I can't really put it into words. It hurt. It hurt to have to be to grieve the loss of my grandmother, and to also have to be strong for my mother who lost her mom. But no one was there to be strong for me, and I never looked at him the same. My respect level dropped. It created a lot of problems, and we were fighting and fussing and things like that. And then we decided to move, and it was like getting bad, but I always knew at the back of my head, like, oh, we're never going to get a divorce, we're never going to separate, like, no matter how bad it is, we're going to be fine. And even though we were going through the things that we were going through of arguing and not seeing eye to eye, and he stopped working, he said God told him that it was his season not to work, and I told him that the Bible says, man who don't work, he don't eat. And I'm the only one that's working, and we weren't willing to compromise in household responsibilities, because I was still looked at to work, come home, cook, clean, and give him some loving while he was home all day doing whatever he was doing. And I felt used, I felt mistreated, I felt unappreciated, and I just felt like I was just there to exist. I wasn't living. And there were so many times I would cry. There were so many times that I felt alone, that he would want to go and choose to be with other people, like friends and stuff like that, and go to events while I'm home. Like, I made a sacrifice to move from Virginia to Maryland. I didn't know anybody in Maryland. So when I moved from Virginia to Maryland, it was for him. I made that sacrifice to follow the man that I knew I was about to marry and I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And it was really hard. And I think for me, because I didn't know anyone, I really clung to him and his family, his mom and his sisters and his niece. And I had my ups and downs with the women. I've had my share. I had my share of issues with my previous in-laws, and so and it was hurtful. And so the last time that we moved, which was the last apartment that we shared with each other, in 2013, I prayed the scariest prayer I prayed thus far, I guess. I prayerfully never have to pray it again. But I prayed and I asked God, and I said, Lord, you designed me, you created me, You said that you created me to live life and have it more abundantly, God. When you created marriage, I know it's not supposed to be like this. And I know marriages aren't perfect and nobody is perfect. But God, like, I am trying. I am trying to compromise. I'm trying to change things about myself, even things that I know I probably don't even need to change, but He wants to change it. So I'm just going to do it to make Him happy. But I lost myself. I lost my identity. And I'm telling God this. And I was like, I haven't been to church in a year and a half, God. I haven't been happy. I've put the things on hold to please man, to please him. And my ex-husband at the time, I'm telling God, my husband told me to stop going to school, that I did not need to pursue going to school because what he was trying to build was going to take care of us. So I put my goals of going to school on hold. I put my goals of becoming a certified wedding planner on hold, God. Like, I don't understand how much more I have to put on hold for him. And I lost my identity. I lost who I was to make him happy. I had learned the behavior of becoming passive aggressive and not fully expressing my feelings and just going along with it, even if I knew it was wrong. And I said, God, I love him. I want this to work. But if this was not who I was supposed to marry, and it is time for you to remove me from the situation before I get hurt or he gets hurt, have your way, Father God. If you have to remove him, please do it. If not, please make this word touch his heart, God. Bring him back to church. I'd said all of that. And I just left it in God's hands. And I met this young lady who is now married to my ex-husband's best friend. And her and I started to become really close. And she invited me out to her church at the time. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I want to go to church. So we go to church. And the pastor was preaching on... what does she preach on? It's turning around for your good. When I say I shouted that church up and down, I shouted up and down because I said, Lord, I just prayed to you just last night, God. You're going to turn it around, God. You're going to turn my marriage around. You're going to touch my husband's heart, God. You're going to make us better, da-da-da-da. No. Well, I come home and I'm like, Pastor said this and da-da-da-da-da-da, and babe, I just believe this is going to happen for us and da-da-da. And he just looked at me like, well, I don't. And I was like, what? What you mean you don't? So we're going back and forth, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's, just having a moment, or he's feeling some kind of way or whatnot. And he's like, I want a divorce. And by that time, I had gained enough strength, or maybe the Lord just trickled some strength down into Monica at that moment. Because before, I would be like, no, please don't leave me. I'll do whatever. I'll change. It's me. This time, I said, oh, you want a divorce? Well, okay. You're going to have to leave today. And because I had never stood up to him before, he looked at me like, who you talk to? And I said, if you want a divorce and you want to give up on this marriage and you want to give up on me and give up on the vows that you said in front of our family, friends, and God, then you can leave today. And we got into even more bigger argument, and he called a family member and they came and got him, but we were still arguing, going back and forth. But the whole time we were arguing, although it was painful, there was a peace about it. And so when he left, of course I cried, because this is a man that I gave my everything, my all to, mind, body, soul, spirit, everything to. And he just left. He left. Without an explanation. He just said, I just want a divorce. This isn't working. I don't want to do this anymore. That's it. So he left, and for about 2-3 weeks, I didn't really eat anything. I lost weight. I went into a depression. We had arranged a time for him to come and pick up his belongings from the house. And I agreed to him to come at a certain time. And the day that he came, he was talking a whole bunch of mess. And was like, yeah, I just want to let you know I removed you from Facebook and deleted you and deleted pictures. And I hope the next guy that you be with, that you just learn to be like this and be like that. And, hopefully you'll find someone that, is a little bit more, whatever, just stuff, trying to get to me. And it's like, I wanted to say something to him so bad, but it was like, I was like, don't say nothing. And it's I'm like, And I wanted to talk back to him, but God literally had his hands on my mouth because he was really saying some hurtful things and all this stuff. And I'm literally watching this man go in and out of the apartment and taking stuff out. He took the TV. Okay. He broke down and threw away the TV stand. He broke down and threw away the dining room set. He took the computer aside. He broke down and threw away the computer stand. Now I'm sitting here looking at an almost completely empty apartment. I'm sitting on the couch. And I'm like, okay, is this man about to walk out with the mattress? And I'm asking God, can I speak now? Because I'm about to be laying on this floor. And I was like, okay, that's it. You need to go. Everything else I'm going to keep. He goes, well, you ain't buy it, da-da-da-da. And I said, you've taken enough. You can leave. And we got into it again, and I said, I'm not doing this with you. Goodbye. So I left. He left. And then next thing, maybe like 5 minutes later, he knocks on the door. And he goes, well, I forgot something. And he pushes past me, and he takes a cushion off of the sofa and said, and have a good night. I looked at that couch. I looked back at that doorway where he just walked out of the apartment. And I said, God, did this man just come back in here just to take a cushion off the couch? And I laughed, and I was just like, what the world was I supposed to do to me? That night was the most toughest and emotional nights in my life. Because it became real. As soon as I turned around from locking the door, it became real that he was gone. The stuff was gone. And the only thing that I had left to my name was the apartment. And thankfully it was in my name. A half couch, a mattress and a box spring, and kitchen appliances and food. And I remember my mom called me and she said, baby, are you okay? And I remember I told my mom, I said, Mom, I said, now I know how you felt when Grandma died. Because I said, God forbid, and I pray that I don't have to experience this anytime soon. But I said, it literally feels like someone just called me. Excuse me for crying. I told my mom, I said, it literally just feels like someone just called and told me that you died and I'm never going to see you again. That is the pain that I felt when my ex-husband left me. When he abandoned our home, when he left, when he gave up, when he just threw me away. As if it was nothing. As if those 3.5 years that we had spent together was nothing. Nothing. And I could not understand it. And I had checked out. I mean, I checked out. It was like I would just wake up, turn my alarm off, get dressed, go on the bus, go to work, put on a fake smile, come home, and just literally sit and sulk on the couch. And my friends would try to get me to come out. My mom tried to get me out. And the young lady that I had met at the time told me about this pastor that was starting a new ministry. And funny enough, I had met him and his wife prior, maybe like a year before